The Void, Series 1, Episode 1, The Naled, Chapter 9. The first hints of morning started to appear as the darkness started to rescind and the sky turned a pink hue on the horizon. There was a slight mist hanging close to the ground that could have emerged from the nearby lake. It was still very cold, the soldiers' breath hanging in the air as they exhaled. "That's a nice colour," Sheen admired as the sky brightened. "Not as nice as Salem Busan," Heinze responded. "It's got a vivid green sky which has to be seen to believed." "Sounds ugly to me. The sky could be many colours, but it should definitely not be green." "Don't dismiss it so easily. You don't object to the water being green, do you?" "I do if it's stagnant. I mean when there's blooms of algae, seaweed or bracken. Look, Thomas, I know you're proud of your home, and that's all good, but you're just not going to sell me on the idea of a green sky." "Philistine." Sheen and Heinze had been stood outside for 2 hours now, keeping an eye on the perimeter. It had been decided to keep close as the night set in. They were too few in number to stray far from the command center during darkness. Much safer to resume operations during daylight. They were pacing around the immediate area, following a set routine that had been decided upon, as repeated the route and time again, occasionally altering their course, but never steering too far away from the base. "Sheen, could you hold up a moment? I need a..." "Again? I swear you have the smallest bladder in the universe," Sheen joked. "You eat a grape and need a 10 minutes later." "I just had productive kidneys," Heinze responded, tongue firmly in his cheek. "Besides, I always need to go first thing in the morning. It's only been 7 hours since it was daylight." "It's still morning." While Heinze relieved himself, Sheen kept a close eye on the surrounding area. He could hear animal noises nearby and was alert to them. They had no idea what fauna could exist on this world, so there was always a danger of something feral and vicious crossing their path. He stepped forward to view around the corner and raised his railgun in alarm. "Heinze, get over here! What is it? Some kind of creature!" Heinze forced himself to finish prematurely, cursing as he did so, and grabbed his railgun, running over to his colleague. Heinze was not impressed with what he saw. "What is it?" "What do you mean, what is it? It's a goat, man. You never seen a goat before?" "No." "You've never seen a goat? I thought you were from a farming planet." "I am, but we don't have these things there." "What kind of farm did you grow up on?" "A farm with no goats. On a planet with no goats." "Well, put your gun down at least. It's harmless." "It looks dangerous to me." "It's a goat. It eats anything, and it headbutts you if you annoy it. It's not gonna eat you," Heinze reasoned in exasperation. "Besides, you heard the Major. No firing unless absolutely necessary. All you'll do is reduce that poor thing to a puddle." "Put the gun down, Sheen." "Oh, here he comes now." Sheen complied immediately with Varma's orders. "Were you going to shoot that goat?" Varma queried. "Yes, sir." "Why exactly?" "It's a goat. This farm boy's never seen a goat before. I mean, what kind of a farm doesn't have a goat?" "Heinze, don't belittle your colleagues. Sheen, you seriously need to read up on your natural history." "Yes, sir," they both chirped in union. "If you two are done threatening the wildlife, could you go and check out the buildings working easterly? The others are going to be sweeping in their respective directions. Stay in touch with each other and report in to me if you find anything." "Yes, sir." "Right, off you go." Obediently, they turned to face the nearest cluster of buildings and started marching towards them. Varma himself started striding back to the building. "Why did you have to drop me in the like that?" Sheen protested. "You had your railgun trained on a goat, man. How exactly would you have talked yourself out of that situation?" Sheen thought for a moment, but couldn't think of anything. "That's what I thought." "Yeah, well now the Major is going to think we're a right pair of..." "He'd be half right," Heinze shot back. Sheen extended a single digit in Heinze's direction. Ahead of them lay a number of buildings. To one side was a massive industrial building with black walls and barely any visibility of the interior. There were a few office-type buildings and another smaller industrial building which looked like it was used in logistics. "Where shall we start?" "Start with the big one. Might as well get it out of the way first." The pair found an unlocked door on the side of the building. It seemed a little incongruous being the only feature on that side, and they wondered why the building had no windows or bay doors. It was often the case that industrial buildings didn't have many windows, but they usually had some. Stepping inside, the first aspect of the environment that they noticed was the smell. It was musty, perhaps even moldy, Surprisingly, there seemed to be a fair amount of greenery inside, with walls and floors covered in simple plant matter. There were a few weeds around as well, but it was predominantly the single green lichens. Stinks a bit. Smells old. How long did they say it was left abandoned? From before the Republic, so it's a good 30 Triskel years. The interior corridor was rather bland, giving little away in information. They carried along the corridor until they reached another door and passed through it. This doorway opened into a much larger space filled with industrial machinery. This cavernous space seemed to fill the whole interior of the structure, and they could see bay doors at the far end, which would allow for large cargo containers to be loaded and unloaded. There were conveyor belts leading into the machinery, although it was difficult to discern what the machinery did, as much was obscured. There were sluices and grates that were visible, as well as a number of pipes feeding into it. Sheen noticed something that Heinze wouldn't have noticed. There were containment spaces to one side, reminding him of animal pens, though these were encased in several cages. If they were built to hold animals, the size of the animal must have been large, much larger than standard livestock. It could have held a karaga, which was a large livestock animal that humans farmed. But why would such large creatures be used here? There were many much more manageable options. It then dawned on Sheen what this place was, as he had been in similar places before. Heinze? I think I know what this place is.